have had a theme in my songwriting for my entire life since I was 8 years old that has to do with the subject of aloneness, being alone, lonely, that kind of thing. And when I wrote Blue Around the Edges, I knew, because of the subject matter and the inspiration behind it, that it was the last song that I was going to write from that place. And I know it stems from my history, particularly with my relationship with my mother and a story that she told me at the very last time I actually saw her. In writing the song, it came out from beginning to end without any interruption. I was sitting there with my Rickenbacker guitar in front of my computer, singing into GarageBand so that I wouldn't forget anything. It's a really good thing that I did that, actually, or it probably wouldn't have turned out the way it did. And it just came out. I had a very personal bridge that I wrote, and I knew that if I left that bridge the way that it was, lyrically, that everybody would be listening to it and be thinking about my experience. So I went back in and I actually changed and rewrote the bridge so that it still tells my story. I know what my story is, but it allows the person who's listening to make it their own story about releasing loneliness or abandonment or those kinds of really hard things to get through in your life. I hope it just leaves you completely and that you have a lifting and a breaking free of that feeling. I don't know that it's going to do that, but it sure did it for me. So here's Blue Around the Edges.
Flash across the night skyway. I make a wish that you come home. No one's listening, but I say it anyway. My heart is troubled tonight. Nothing we tried could save us. Wasted lots of precious time. Taught me love was dangerous. So what's a girl to do now that we're at the end of the road? It was a hard ride. We finally made it just in time to say goodbye, but not hello. Oh, my heart. Oh, my soul loves you, always will.
Earlier on in my career, I very rarely wrote my own lyrics, but mostly I collaborated with Artie Colatrella and Alan Krober. They inspired me and taught me a lot about lyric writing. I'm here with Artie Colatrella. We're talking about how we met, and I was just wondering, do you remember the whole story and all, or?
I remember pretty much every minute of it. Wasn't that long ago.
Tell.
My brother called me from Jersey one night, and he said a friend of ours from high school, George Mears, had bought a bar. Sure enough, I walked around the corner that night, and there it was. You had your 12-string. And I think it was the Matin.
Oh, was it? Yeah, Australian Matin
yeah.
12-string. I remember that. Yeah.
And it just rang right out, and I was so exhilarated by the playing. I was, on one hand. On the other hand, I was so depressed because I knew I was never going to touch another guitar again, which I didn't for 10 years.
I never knew that.
You know, I didn't
Serious.
for 10 years. You came off stage after that set. I remember just grabbing you by the arm. I had been writing a lot of poetry, and I asked if you're interested in some new lyrics. And you said, oh, sure. I went home that night and I wrote 26.
26
I just
lyrics?
kept writing, yeah.
I think I like sort of said to you, "Don't send me any more lyrics" or something. It was really, it was brutal. I mean, something like that.
Yeah, that year took a piece of my soul, and
Sorry. That was my first gig in LA. That was my very first gig. I remember living in this brick basement apartment on Westminster. In Venice.
Still there.
Yeah, it is, actually. It was the kind of apartment where you'd wake up and somebody'd be peeing in the window.
Yeah, it basically wrote Baby's Basement Blues for itself. I mean, that's what it was.
It was about that apartment, living in
Yeah, no, it was all about that apartment.
Well, I remember opening up my door and there being this lyric, and was it a rose?
Yeah, it was a rose. It wasn't a dozen.
No, it was a rose.
Who had money back then? That was half my rent to buy a dozen roses.
So it was a rose, and you just said, you know, this is the last lyric you'll ever get from me.
Pretty much.
Anyway, I picked it up and I read it, and it was like the best lyric I ever read in my life. It blew me away, and I immediately sat down at the keyboards and wrote our first song.
Yeah, that was the first
Baby's
song.
Basement Blues.
But it wasn't after the 26, mind you. There was probably another 100 stuck in between that year. You know, I had to learn this transformation from poetry to lyric writing.
And Dangerous Dreamer, which you had the title cut on.
Yeah,
that.
there was like 4 songs on that album.
Hot Eyes.
Yeah.
Tough Girls Can Be Pretty. It was I Feel the Power. It was you and me and Lori Wayburn. And then the second record, you got the title track. It was Out of Desire. Great song, great lyric. That's the single. So out of all the songs that we wrote together, what's your top 3, I guess, out of all of them?
Well, the one we're going to continue to work on is When Love Says Leave.
Yeah.
And Baby Don't Hurt Me. Mm-hmm. Basement Blues because it was the first one.
I think those are my 3. So are we going to write any more, do you think?
I don't know. I gave you a lyric last week. You talked me into writing a lyric again. Ball's in your court now. So.
Okay.
I dream we're on the open sea. I look for you the night below, but I can't find you anywhere. So if you live inside me now, why do I feel so alone? Oh, my heart. Oh, my soul loves you, always will. Oh, my heart. Oh, my soul loves you, always will. Oh, my heart. Please be still.
You know, if you're in the dark night of the soul in your life, you know, don't give up. You'll make it through. I know, because I've been through it myself.
My soul loves you, always will. Oh, my heart. Please be still.